Hello YouTube, like I promised you, my last World War attack is only approximately 10 minutes ago. I cut the video, created a new thumbnail to get rid of the old ones I'm always using, and now I'm back quite to do the next tutorial or even the next video for you. And this video will be about a resume or a summary about the last 4.7 update of Overseas. And we will, I will sum up every building and every new content that comes through this update, and whether it's helpful or whether it's a pointless aspect which got in the game. And we'll start with all of the new contents right in a priority order. I did them in a priority order to highlight, in my opinion, in which order they have to be placed, in my opinion, due to their value or worth they have in the game. And so we will begin with the sniper tower, which is probably the most amazing or even the most strongest content of the new update. And you can see my sniper tower over here, 13 hours and 38 minutes quite to go to have the sniper tower. And when we are focusing on our sniper tower, we see that this is a very special building at all. We see the hit points are not very high, 920 hit points. That's very little for a defensive building, but we also see 90 damage per second, and we have to deal with a building which has only one target hit. So it's not like a redoubt or even like a catapult or mortar. It's something like a cannon tower, but with very much less damage. But with a very higher range. We have a range of 28, and I will show it plastically to you later in my base layout how far this 28 range means in reality. But we have to sum up that there is a damage of 90 damage per second, and because of the firing rate of all 3 seconds, we have to multiply this score with 3. So at least we will have a score of about 270, I think. So our sniper tower will be able to take out our ranged infantry with only one shot. So every shot the sniper tower is doing, one ranged infantry will fall, and also with 1 or 2 shots the sniper tower will be able to get rid of our healing cards or something like that. And that's also a problem, because the sniper tower always focuses for the furthest enemy in the range, and because of the huge range, they are very early in the attack or in the game. There will be many targets right inside of the range, and when I attack the sniper tower, I for myself recognized that they are very often focusing for artillery, cannons, or even healing cards, which is quite a pain in the ass. Let's show it on the base. We can see right over here we have a mortar with a range of 10, I think, yes, with a range of 10. If we compare this to the sniper tower, it's very huge. I think it's comparable, not at all, but it's comparable a little with the Colosseum, because the range is nearly all over our bases, and probably it does not quite matter where you place it. It's always protecting a very huge space of your base, or a very huge area of the base. There's another very special thing about the sniper tower. If you look at it, you see the area of the sniper tower is only 2x2 fields. You can see it highlighted in red over here. So this building has a space or an area which is quite as big as the of the cannon tower or of the oil well, and not a 3x3 area like nearly all other defensive buildings, like a mortar probably. Because this tower is so small, it's very easy to locate it right inside of your base. Even use 1 or 2 walls more to get a little expansion of your base to place it right inside, and therefore the sniper tower is very strong and very small, and you are able to place it nearly everywhere in your base with a little bit of changing of your arrangement or locations of all of your buildings. There's another special thing we can see when we hit on our mortar. We have a blind spot, this red circle right in the inner side of our mortar, and we have the same thing at our sniper tower. But now when we are looking very focused and very close, we see that the blind spot of the mortar is reaching only to the half of our next building, and we know that our air defense we know from former videos that our air defense is an ordinary defensive building and that it has an area of 3 by 3 fields. And when we now look closely, we will see that the blind spot of our mortar is only nearly half of the area of the air defense, and so we know that the blind spot has a range of 2 fields from our mortar, but the blind field or the blind spot of our sniper tower is quite huge. You can see it completely is about the area of our air defenses, and so we know that the blind spot of the sniper tower is quite 3 range. There is 3 range which cannot be covered right in close to the sniper tower, but therefore there is a huge range at the outside, and therefore we have an optimum of using this sniper tower by placing it right in the center of our base, because when you place it right at the center of your base, the walls and other defensive buildings will quite protect the blind spot of the sniper tower, and so the sniper tower at the other side is able to shoot over your whole base, protect the other buildings, and even is to be a pain in the ass for enemy attackers which are attacking your base. And to sum it up, I think the sniper tower is one of the strongest updates which was released during the last time. But this was also a necessary one, because in the World Wars it was quite obviously that with the university and with all troop upgrades, the offensive got way too strong, and that getting 5-star or 5-starring other bases was even quite too easy, and that very many battles, especially in the World War, ended up with a stalemate, so that no alliance could win. And also in the multiplayer it got easier and easier with the time and with new updates to get 5 stars, and therefore I think the sniper towers are quite appropriate defensive building. You have one in the industrial age, I'm quite sure, or I think you cannot upgrade it, but I will see, and you will definitely get a second one in the global age. So that was it about the sniper tower. Let's next talk about our dock. The problem of the dock is I can't really show the how it is working. I will just explain it to you, because my dock is getting upgraded, and therefore I can just not use it to show you the interface, but you probably know it because all of you have a dock. And we can see the dock over here. You can upgrade it like all ordinary buildings to a stage, and the stages are depending on the level of your on your age. So when you are in the medieval, you can just upgrade it to level 4. So my dock is quite a level 4, going up to level 5. My dock is changing from medieval to gunpowder age era. And you can upgrade it 1 time per age. And with every age you are upgrading, the dock is getting bigger. The visualization, is changing, and it looks a little bit slightly different. And there are other rewards available in the dock. When you are hitting on the dock, you see a big screen on your complete device, and you can just change. You can just choose on the top side your first expedition, then in the center your second expedition, and when you have upgraded your dock to the level 7, you can even choose your third expedition. So all 24 hours the expeditions are changing. I think on top you can see over here, when you are inside of the dock, that there is a counter which counts down the 24 hours before new targets are getting available, and with the new targets there are new rewards you can get. You can even speed this up with some crowns, which is pointless in my opinion, but everyone can do what he wants, so even speed it up. And when you've upgraded, you can see on the left side, right, the primary reward you can get. All primary rewards by the expeditions, and on the more center side you can see the second rewards you can get, and the second rewards mostly are like trade goods, or even little amounts of gold, or even of food, I think. And the primary rewards are the more important or the more interesting ones, because very often you can get over there some new blessings, or even some special troops you can get, and what is a really nice point, they mix these troops up so that they are historically correct, so you can get even some troops from your barracks and even some nation specific troops, also as some mercenaries. So I can't show it to you, but I can explain it to you. For example, I had in my level 4 dock, I could see, or there were available some Chinese troops, I think from Nanjing over here. Nanjing, you can see from this expedition. And if I would have done this expedition, I would have got some Chukonos and even some Mercs. I'm not quite sure how they are called, but you can see over here in the Merc camp these guys over here. I'm not quite sure how they are called in English, but they are some looters, some raiders, and they are historically correct from China. So the doc is working very, very awesome by mixing up all troops to get historically correctness. Even there was an expedition to Lübeck, I think, a German state, and if you would have done this, you would get some nation-specific German troops. I think the Vandals, and even a healing card, which is quite nice because of the mixing up even of nation-specific troops, which have better values than other troops in specific statistics like the attack or even the health points or the range. And so I think the doc is very, very helpful. There is another point. If you are getting as reward some armies, there is often in your tactic screen when you are attacking, look down over here. My tactic screen is not completely filled because I did my attack only 20 minutes ago, and so I have wasted many of my tactics and even of my troops. But ordinary, you have filled this complete screen down here with some tactics, some additional event armies probably, and with your troops and even donated troops. And so you have to scroll around, and this is using or wasting a lot of space. And when you are attacking, you have often concentrating, focusing, not touching on the wrong thing to choose what you wanted to choose, and therefore this screen is way too full. Now when you are getting new armies, this screen would even be much fuller or even brimful, and that would be really bad for the attack. But if you are getting new rewards from your dock, you can see right over here, and they are getting placed in your inventory so that you don't have to take them instantly. You can just get them as savings over here and save them until you need them. You see, I did one expedition only to prove this, and here are my trade goods, and I don't have to take them. I can just wait. Probably in next time there is a specific moment in the World War when we are getting when the World War is very close. I cannot even take my trees or my mines to get some more trade goods, probably because I don't have any citizens anymore or anything like that, and the World War is ending, and I definitely need more trade goods, for example for some new mercenaries. Then I can just go to my inventory, collect my trade goods, and so I can get these trade goods as savings to get the blessing or even the troops you very badly needed in this situation. All in all, I can only tell you that the doc is a very valuable and a very good point, which got as new content to you from the 4.7 update. Is there anything I have to mention? Yeah, there's another point. When you are quite in the interface of the doc, you can choose on the right center side over here probably whether to take one general with you. This general will grant you some extra bonuses from the expeditions, but I can not recommend this to you because I tried this 2 times, and I heard from other players that the rewards you are getting stocked up only by a very little and unimportant amount with the general, but you have 8 hours, probably even up to 2 days, no general or this general not available, and that's quite pointless because yes, the most important things you can get by the dock are probably some new blessings or even some special troops. Some nation-specific special troops which you can use in the World War as reinforcements. The next I want to talk with you about is the armored car. The armored car is getting available, I think it's the stage 6 or stage 5 factory, and we can see it over here. I want to compare this car to the ordinary loot raiders, but the problem is the armored car MK1 is in global age available. So this is a looting unit, and I just cannot compare it to my looting units, because my motorcycle raiders are only on industrial stage and they are quite weaker than the than the tank wagons, and therefore I contacted some guys out of my alliance to get the values of the or the statistics of the global age motorcycle riders, and I have prepared a little graphic for you. Guys, here we are in our graphic, and I use this graphic to compare it in the best way to visualize to you, which words are quite highlighted, and you see the green highlighted words are quite better in comparison to the words of the other unit, and the red highlighted words are quite worse. And let's start with the troop space capacity. That is a first initial very important thing. You see a troop space capacity of 6 for the tank wagon and only of 3 for our heavy motorcycle rider. And due to this fact, or only because of this fact, you have to do the complete summary or the complete comparison in another way, because you can take only half of the amount of tank wagons in comparison to the heavy motorcycle riders, because they are taking the doubled amount of troop space, and therefore we have to multiply all values of the motorcycle rider by 2 to get an adequate comparison of both units. Now when we are comparing both, we see that 2 motorcycle riders have to be compared to 1 tank wagon, and when we start with our hit points, we have a total hit point amount of 276 for the heavy motorcycle rider and 4,301 for the tank wagon. And so we see the tank wagon has much more hit points. Even 1 tank wagon has more hit points than 2 motorcycle riders, and this point is going to the tank wagon. The next point is the damage per second. The total damage per second for 2 motorcycle riders is 462, and for the tank wagon, like you can see over here, 727. So there are slightly more hit points for the tank wagon. Not hit points, more damage per second for the tank wagon, and also just due to this value and because of this value, the damage against economic buildings is also very much higher for the tank wagon, because the simply damage per second gets multiplied by 3 for both units, and therefore we have for the 2 motorcycle riders a damage per second against resource buildings. Oh, we have another factor over here. Against resource buildings and infantry, about 2,181 for the tank wagon and only 1,850 for the motorcycle rider. And we have to add that the motorcycle rider is only doing this special attack against resource buildings, economical buildings, but the tank wagon is also dealing this special damage against enemy infantry. So this tank wagon is also very important or very strong against enemy infantry, a quite noticeable fact, I think. Next point we want to talk about is the range, and you see the range of the motorcycle rider is only 1.5 and of the tank wagon is quite 3. I'm not quite sure how this fact is really important, because I think units with 3 space have a little bit more space, but they are nevertheless not able to shoot above walls. But I have to look it up. I'm not quite sure whether tank wagons can shoot above walls. Next point we want to talk about is the training costs. And we see on the left side 700 training costs. So we are talking about 2 motorcycle riders. So 1,400 food against 350 oil. And now, guys, to be serious, first, oil is much more important than food. I for myself have nearly all the time maxed out food, and I don't know even where to put it. I would donate this food if it would be possible. So even if this value would be increased to 20,000, even if I had to pay 10,000 per motorcycle rider, I would use this even more than 350 oil for every tank wagon. So I think this is the worst aspect about the tank wagon, that it costs 350 oil per unit, and so every attack you are using them, you are just not aiming to get rid of all defensive buildings, so you will lose every unit you are using in this attack. Therefore, it means every unit you are taking with you will cost you 350 oil. And I think even when you are aiming for oil, it is very ineffective. And that's the most important point, I think, whether or why I will not use this tank wagon instead of ordinary motorcycle rider. There's also another point. We have a training time of 3 minutes and 30 seconds for one, and so 5 minutes for 2 motorcycle riders and 6 minutes for the tank wagon. In summary, we can say that the tank wagon is stronger, more durable, has a higher range, and even some special damage against enemy infantry. But even or especially when you are farming or when you are aiming for enemy oil, the tank wagon is very, very ineffective because it just costs you so much oil in production that I think it's getting not effective to farm some oil with it. And also the training time is much higher than for motorcycle riders, so you will need more time or even more crones to get an effective army to farm with. So at all, I think the motorcycle riders are not worth at all to use them. But if you have some other opinions, if you have just tried them out because you are still in the global age or already in the global age, just tell me, put it down in the comment section. I'm quite interested in your opinions. Next point we want to talk about is our library. Since update 4.7 was released, we have 4 new books at level 9, and even at these 4 books, 5 additional chapters. Let's start with shippings. You can see over here the expedition resource rewards are getting increased by chapter 1 and by chapter 2 by 10%. So at all, no. Only over here, okay? The expedition resource rewards are getting increased by 10%, so I think you will get a little bit more gold. Or even 1 or 2 more trade goods, but I don't think that this is going for the trade goods because we have a special chapter over here plus 1 expedition trade good reward. So I think this 10% are only concerning or dealing with the amount of gold or food you are getting. So this chapter 1 is quite pointless. Chapter 1 is probably interesting because if you are getting some diamonds and being able to get an additional diamond is quite important. Expeditions are returning 10% earlier, even when or especially when you have upgraded your dock to a very high stage and the expeditions are lasting for some days even. This 10% are getting much and much more. So when you are only having expeditions for 2 hours, this 10% are probably not very much. But if you have expeditions about some days, this 10% faster returning is quite a useful point, I think. Plus 10% general bonus resource rewards. Like I told you, I'm not quite, I cannot recommend to you to take some generals with you, but I don't think what this is, how this is dealing with the generals, how this 10% are getting good or bad with the generals. We have just to try it out. So chapter 4, I don't know how to analyze it or what to tell about it. Chapter 5, expedition need one less citizen. That's very important. Even some high expeditions or some quite valuable expeditions need currently, I think, 4 citizens. And when you are needing 1 citizen less, you are probably able to do 2 expeditions at once and instead of only 1. And I think this last chapter is again the most valuable chapter because you have to research all other chapters before you can get to the last one and even the most important one. So next, the victory chest reward book. You can see over here, plus 10% victory chest resources, so you will get some more gold and some more food. And even for the players which are in high league ranks or at high leagues in the game, this is quite important because I very often saw from the victory chest more than 100,000 gold or food being available. And if this is getting boosted by 10%, it's quite nice, I think, for those players. Chapter 2, reducing the cooldown time from the victory chest about 2 hours, and chapter 4 we see the same. So in total you can reduce the cooldown time of your victory chest by 4 hours, from 24 hours 1 day to 20 hours. So this victory chest will be available much more often. Quite useful point, I think. Plus 1 victory chest trade good reward. This plus 1 trade good reward is nice and okay, but I think it's only getting very valuable or interesting when you could get plus 1 diamond. Otherwise, it's quite pointless, I think. Last chapter, chapter 5, reducing the amount of stars you need to get the victory chest by 3. So that means you don't have to earn 15 stars in the multiplayer. Also, 12 stars are enough to get the victory chest. That means that the victory chest is getting available more often, but then it's also cooling down more often. And I don't think that the 5th chapter is so much important because 12 stars, 15 stars, there's only 1 attack difference, I think. Next, the betrayal. I think I'm not quite sure how this chapter is called in English, but we are talking about our increasing the the power of our traps, and we can see plus 20% spike trap damage and also landmine damage. And when we look over here, our landmines have actually a damage of 10,450, and if we are increasing this value by 10%, we get additional 1,045 damage, and in total we will get up to 11,500 nearly. So 11,500 damage, and in the global age I think it will be about 13,000 nearly 13,000 damage. So we I recognize that the traps, the spike traps in the industrial age are getting way too weak, because the tanks are getting all so much hit points, especially the nation-specific tanks like the Greeks or even the French tanks. Therefore, it was quite necessary to get this upgrade when that our spike traps have way more power, and I think this is a good upgrade. Next, chapter 2, the cooldown, or not the cooldown, the spike traps. Oh, the spike traps are even slowing down enemy by additional 5%. So that means that industrial age maxed out spike traps, like my ones, I maxed out nearly all of my. You can see we have a slowing down amount of 50%, and if they are getting additional 5%, we have 55% slowing down. And if we are upgrading them, we get in total, if you have researched in the library and upgraded to the max global age stage, we have a total reducing of speed of 60%, and that's very, very much, guys. So a very powerful chapter in the library, I think. The slowing down chapter for our cultural traps or even barbed wire. Chapter 3, plus 1 attacker from our ambush traps, and currently I think in the industrial as well as in the global age we have 4 ambush guys in every trap. So in total we can have, I think, 7 or 8 traps. That means if you have researched this chapter, 35 up to 40 troops which are right in the ambush traps, and it's quite not bad, because if they are located in the right direction, they can quite last or cost the enemy some time. And even kill some healing cards or even some cannons or artillery. Not bad. Chapter 4, plus 10% Flarak damage. That means the missile damage, which is a quite new trap, which is available in the global age, and which is only attacking for enemy air units with a high range. Plus 10% is really high, and I think this chapter got added because we have another point I will talk to you later, which is about getting new upgrades for your air units, and that means that the air units are getting more powerful, and therefore also the traps have to be more powerful. Chapter 5, really nice, but also a pain in the ass for attackers. We get to plus 1 additional missile trap. So that means in the global age, I think you can have 2 plus 1, so 3 missile traps, and that's really dangerous when you are attacking with your aircraft. Last chapter, I was really amazed when I read this about mortars, because I was not aware, or I was not sure whether they meant the mortar as defensive building or the mortar even as attacking troop, as unit in your barracks. But now it got translated in German, and Wachmörser means the unit in your barracks. So I'm really disappointed, because they are not meaning your defensive buildings, they are meaning the units you can just train. And so that means, but we have to look closely at it. In the up to the Enlightenment age, the mortar troop is quite useless. I think they are very stupid. Like you can see over here, these are the Enlightenment age troops. They have quite many hit points. They have also a very good damage, and they are dealing area of damage like a mortar, but they have troop place capacity of 6, so you can take only very little of them with you, like cavalry probably, and you have a training time of 40 minutes, which is very long, but you also have a range of 4. The mortars got increased, so we have a 4 range, and even when you are upgrading them in the industrial age, they are getting more powerful. And when you are now looking at the chapter in the library we talked about 2 seconds ago, you see that even the hit points are getting upgraded by 2 times 10%, so 20% additional hit points and 20% additional damage. And I'm quite sure in the university you can also research 10 times 3% more hit points and damage. So that means in total we get 10% more hit points, 20% more hit points, and even 30% more hit points from the university. So in total we have plus 50% damage and hit points. I think these troops are getting very powerful, because the last chapter is look at this, +1 range. And that means they are equal to British ranged troops. That means 5 range. That is the highest range of shooting and attacking troops in the game, like artillery, like howitzers. And I think if you have researched all of these chapters, the mortar troops are getting very powerful and interesting to play at the at the global age. Therefore, guys, keep in mind, research this chapter and don't hesitate to try out new troops, because I'm quite sure and I think the mortar troops can be very surprising and very strong in the global age. That's a definite recommendation from me. The next point we want to talk about is one of the last points we have, and these are some balance changings, and I'm not quite sure whether they got earlier or with the last update, but we have definitely some nerf downs, and we can see them at the French and at the Greek nation. Before, we had a boost of 25% more hit points and 15% more damage for the French, and 15% more hit points and 25% more damage for the Greek nation-specific troops, so for the cavalry. But due to some attacks and due to some balance changings, the developers of Nexon recognized that this additional hit point percentage are way too powerful, especially because the troops also in the global age have already very many hit points, and so this Greek and this French nation-specific tanks in the global age nearly got as strong as your heavy tanks, because they had far more than 20,000 hit points, and that was too strong. Therefore, they had to nerf down both nations by 5%. That was the balance changings. Next we want to talk about is the estate, I think. And I think this is quite pointless. I bought it for myself, but ordinary, you were able to get I think a little bit 2,000 crowns or something like that, and even 2 additional citizens for about 12 euros. And this time you had to pay 55 euros to get no crowns and at least only 3 more citizens. They nearly tripled or 4 times multiplied the amount of money you have to pay for new citizens, and this is, I think, quite pointless and a very, very much too high, Nexon. That's very much too high. Next, we have some upgrades for our air units. I can just not analyze for you, because these air units are only getting available in the global age, and therefore I cannot see how the next fighter jets are looking, how the bomber is looking, and how the transporter is looking. So we have to skip this point, unfortunately. But this was the last point also, because I can just not analyze it for you and talk about it. It is the most unimportant point for me. Guys, I hope this video was quite helpful for you. If you have some questions, some concerns, or even opinions, put it down in the comment section. We'll see you soon. Your domination tips.